Good evening, everyone. I am so excited to be here with you to celebrate Womankind and my co-awardee, Rishi. When we think of targets of sexual violence, people with the accomplishments she listed don't usually come to mind, do they? We assume certain people don't experience this trauma, and we victim blame when they do. So survivors feel compelled to remain silent and sexual violence is perpetuated. Speaking truth to power can have the most dire consequences. I did not want to risk losing my dream job at Louis Vuitton's parent company, but they ignored my reports, refused to do anything to stop the perp, instructed me to confront him, and then suggested that I apologize to the man who sexually harassed and assaulted me. I was told I should feel flattered by the harassment and warned that I would be called a troublemaker and a son of a bee. The perp was publicly promoted and continued to work there for 2 more years, all while I was brutally retaliated against, gaslit, bullied, and intimidated. When I was forced to seek accountability, they published my home address and salary, sought sanctions and hundreds of thousands of dollars in attorney's fees from me. I was hospitalized twice in a year, the following year forced to take unpaid medical leave and diagnosed with PTSD. After testifying to Congress, I was fired in a manner intended to publicly humiliate, demean, and punish me. I've struggled to find a new job ever since. These are just some of the horrific consequences of speaking out against sexual violence. I never had grandiose thoughts of changing anything. As a lawyer and CPA, you guys already know, I'm doubly risk averse. Like most, I didn't want to ruffle any feathers. I strongly resisted the role reversal from helping survivors to being a survivor, and people shamed me for stepping into that role. But I also thought of the interns half my age. I kept thinking, if this is happening to me, what is happening to them? And what about colleagues who aren't lawyers or executives or don't have the fancy degrees? How are they being treated? I realized I was in a unique position to shed light on these horrors. If people like me stayed silent, it would keep on happening again and again and again. I never imagined speaking out would impact survivors across the entire state until a judge ruled that New York's 2018 law unsilencing survivors applied to my case. When that was overturned, I never imagined that Congress would ask me to testify in support of national legislation to unsilence survivors. And I never imagined that my testimony would be key to overwhelming bipartisan passage of one of the most transformative laws of the past century, restoring constitutional rights to 70 million workers and even more consumers. And I certainly never imagined that I would be invited to meet the president and vice president along with the 3 other witnesses. But I did realize I was in a position, at least compared to the interns, to be able to demand change, so I felt a moral obligation to do so. And I've learned that the smallest acts of courage and empathy can have unforeseen yet powerful ripple effects on entire systems. I don't consider myself any braver than the next person. The life quakes we all endure reveal the strength we don't realize we have. For me, it was the sudden tragic death of my baby brother Ryan from misdiagnosed and mistreated malaria at the young age of 25. Our 13-year age difference meant that he was more like a son to me. The loss was excruciating beyond words, but surviving what I feared, even more than my own death, taught me that I could survive so much more than I thought. What is it in your life that may give you the unexpected source of strength? It might be overcoming a serious illness, an addiction, a bitter divorce, or a devastating job loss. In whichever way trauma invades your life, know that eventually you will derive strength from it, and I hope you'll use that strength to improve others' lives. For those of you who can't relate to any of this or struggle with risk-taking, no worries. You can just donate to Womankind and support their work to help our communities rise. I hope each of you will also think about which systems you can change in your organizations to reduce sexual violence. It would be a shame if your support of Womankind's work were undermined by the practices in your own organizations. 2 last things. For those of you who've been sitting here wondering this entire time if I'm Blasian, I'm not. But I am so proud to be the first Black person to receive this award, and I am deeply, yeah, cheer it on. And I am deeply moved to be honored by an organization with historical roots in the Asian, AAPI, and Apadi communities, whose members I've had the pleasure and privilege of forming many meaningful relationships with throughout my life. My parents, who are seated right here, they would probably tell you that it was predictable that I'd feel such a personal connection to Asian Americans, that it likely began in the mid-'80s when they, who were originally from Panama and Ghana, would drive me to and from the Suzuki violin group lessons in Princeton, New Jersey, where I happened to be the only 7-year-old student who was not of Chinese descent. It continued with the close friendships I developed at each school, workplace, orchestra, and choir I've ever been in since. A few of those friends are here tonight. Through our shared experiences of being the first generations born here and through my travels, Asian culture has significantly impacted my life, and I don't think I'd be the person I am today without the support and love I've received from this community. Too often, communities of color are pitted against one another and divided. I stand here as a proud symbol of our unity and the tremendous mutual influence we've had on each other. The Black and Asian communities in particular share more than we realize. And I'm not just talking about music, food, or our coveted ability to age well. It's our respect for our elders, our grit, and our drive to prevail despite the atrocities past generations have endured in this country. I applaud Womankind for honoring someone who reflects the expanding community that it serves. Knowing that my advocacy is impacting the very communities that have impacted me so much is humbling, and it reminds me of our shared humanity and purpose, regardless of color, origin, class, or caste. Finally, I want to dedicate this award to 2 groups of people. First, to my friends and my family for being that essential support net I am so fortunate to have. I was able to take that huge, risky jump off of a cliff to stand up for others because I knew you would always stand up for me. And I also want to dedicate it to Womankind staff and volunteers and advocates. These are the people who do the real work to ensure that survivors are protected, not punished, and sexual violence is prevented, not perpetuated. I am so grateful to everyone at Womankind. My grueling battle for justice continues, and this award blesses me with the support needed to keep on keeping on. Thank you.